Okay, my friends, this is a way over the top, even for me. This is a shocker du jour on steroids. I am going to prove to you right now that extraterrestrial life is in abundance. All right, and I am going to prove it to you using meteorites. Let's get started. Okay, remember this, my friends. Basically, everything I'm going to be talking about is based on blood. And what is blood made out of? Basically, it's made out of metals and fluid, which is basically water. So it's all of these different metals. So this is 26 of them, plus there's tons of different isotopes, and there's tons of different isotopes of iron and so forth. So primarily, blood, when you smelt it, it will turn into primarily iron, because it's mostly iron. Your blood is mostly red iron, ferrous oxides, carrying around oxygen. But it also has all of these metals in there. That's why when they take a metal asteroid and they cut it and they etch it, you can see all the different varieties of metals. So this is all based on that. Remember that, all of these metals. Okay. The space station, when they go and take walks in space, they say it smells like burnt steak, which is polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. And they say the source of this metallic burnt metal stink can be attributed to these hydrocarbons, which are the same thing as charred foods on Earth. It's because the things in space are cooking, and then they boil off all of the blood, and they end up, when the blood, as I showed you, is all metals. That's why I say a lot of this is based on all these metals that are in blood. Because everything that's alive and is a creature has blood in it. If you smelted it, which means to boil everything off, you end up with metals. And when you do, you end up with burnt steak smell in space. And that, my friends, is red blood, and that is the vein blood, the artery blood and the vein blood. Here it is right here. You see that? That's as red as it gets. Zip. That's artery blood. And then just below is the vein blood, which is black. All right, so this was in some kind of a body part, and it came out of space. That's an iron meteorite. Nobody would disagree with that. And all of these different etchings show these different metals that I talked about before. So let's take a look at what I can present that did come out of space, which I have here. I have all the different types of meteorites, the stony ones, the iron ones. I'll show you them. And then I have a whole batch of other stuff. So this is going to be microscope of meteorites and so forth today to show you that things in space are body parts. Okay, so my allegation is that I am going to show you evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that this right here is a meteorite, first of all. Secondly, that it is a body part, and it is a fingertip of a very large, looks to me, human being. And this can be tested. There is red blood still in here. And this is a terrestrial fingertip, virtually identical to that fingertip. You see the little hooks and everything? These are the vein side. This has the same thing, one here and one up here. They plug off. These plugged off. The little hook is the same. The fingertip is identical. The blood on this side blew out. Well, it actually just leaked out as it got squished. This was a fingertip. It was a good sized rounded fingertip, but it got flattened in the soakingness of the flood. And the red blood ran out from here, here, and here. And here's where the blood is in the fingertips. There's two on the side here, two on the side here, and two on the tips. That's the standard in a fingertip. And that's exactly what you have here. Two on one side and a tip on the top. That's the artery side. The vein side doesn't blow out. It's got clamps. So that's clamped off, and the one on the end here is clamped off as well. But not this one, or this one. And that's the way it works. They come down the red side and they come back the black side, which is the vein. All right, so these two are the same. However, this one came through space. That's why it's all blacked off here. And you see that right there? Here is the key that you can't miss. You see that circle right there and this circle right here? And there was another one here, but it's gone. Well, it's gone because this exploded. The red, wet blood that was in here, it was wet coming through space and through the atmosphere, and it literally exploded that off the side as the water molecules heated up. I have another one here that the same thing happened. Oh, that thing is heavy. And I'll show you this in a microscope, which I probably have already, but that's the red blood right there. And that red blood boiled up coming through and exploded this piece. There was a flat plate right across the top, just like, and the blood just boiled and popped it right off of there. And I put a little bit of water on here. And within a couple of seconds, this will be red again. You see it? You see how red that turned? I don't know if you can see that or not, but I certainly can. That is, that's the nature of blood. It rehydrates almost instantly. But that was wet coming through the atmosphere. This has been sitting around 10 years probably. And all you gotta do is put a little water on it, they pop right back up. Now, again, this here actually has the same structures. Like, you see that little gnarly looking thing right there? I believe that's a tendon enthesis. This one also has burnt off and shows up the same thing right here. When we'll look at these in a microscope. But where they have like really secure, locked in enthesis, they have this gnarly look to them. All right, and there's some more up, you know, it's cooked off. And that is, I'm going to show you right now where this attached. There's 3 attachments. And this took a lot of work digging up all these little bits and pieces about this. Now look right here. This is ultra important that you look at the details. This is this fingertip. All right, you see that pad? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and the third one is blown off. That's where the tendons come down. And they locked in like this. That's so you can do all this kind of stuff with your fingers. Those are your tendons. The third one's gone. Now, what is this? You see where these are? Just forward of it and below it is this. Well, guess what? Just forward from this and below it is this. You see that? That's that thing right there. You see it? That circle? That's this. All right, there's the 2, 3 right in a row. Boom, 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 right here. Forward to it is this. That's that. You see how this tendon comes over the top and latches over here? That's exactly what this is doing. There's a spot right here for it to latch to. Of course, it's on the other side. This is, but it has all of the architecture of that fingertip, but completely stripped of the fleshiness down to its basic. I mean, look, it's like a building block, and then you just attach the flesh to it. It's like a Lego block with all the built-in tubing and everything, and then you just throw a bunch of flesh around and a fingernail, which was this right here, and you got yourself a finger. And there's the tendons. What can I say? That is what we're just looking at right here. All right, so not only do I have the fingertip that came through space and cooked off, and I will show you this is very, very unlikely that this didn't come through space. It cooked right off, all of that stuff, and left. I mean, it is what it is. It's a fingertip. All right, and it's cooked. And when they cook through space, this is what how they come out like this. And that actually had to blow out during that cooking. That's the only reason that blew out. And that's all soaked with red blood. And we're going to look at this in a microscope. And I'll show you these attachments too. The same thing here as this. All right, and when they cook off for some reason, and I'm not sure what it is, it's got to be a tendon attachment there, I believe, because these are really very, very coarse and fibrous. And that's how a tendon is. It's tough. Those tendons are, whoa, very tough. Now, not only do I have this fingertip and this one, and I don't know if that's a fingertip or what it is, but it's a meteorite. That, I'm absolutely certain of that. I also have this one here. This is a meteorite, and it's a bony meteorite. All right, and it has a bone on the outside, and on the inside had all the marrow, and that boiled off and turned into iron. So that's a bony, stony meteorite. And then this one, of course, is the little bitty lung. And this I can prove is a lung as well, because it has the latch on the bottom, which is, I call the spurlock, because nobody knows about it except me. And I'll show you that. Okay, remember how I was saying this right here, I believe, was some kind of a really heavy-duty tendon emplacement? That is directly in the center of the fingertip. And there it is right there. All right? You see the three pads? Boom, boom, boom. Here they are. Boom, boom, boom. This one here is right in the center, which leads up to the tip. All right, so that is the heavy-duty jobber that holds these, and I guess you can do this kind of thing. I don't know for sure, but that is obviously a tendon emplacement right there. All right, so, and this, I believe, also is tendon. Boy, this thing is heavy. And there's more of them over here. There's another one over here. There's a bunch of little spots where it looks like tendons were holding in. And then, of course, I showed you, I think I showed you where the blood is. And this has an artery and a vein right here. Artery and a vein. And it cooked enough to where that blood got, which was still wet, popped this piece right off. So there would have been some piece right over the top of this. Came right out to here, and when this got wet, it just exploded and cooked it off. And that's why we can see into these tendons the same way we can see into this tendon. You see it? These are the same things. In the microscope, they'll look very similar. And here's what they look like anatomically. All right, this is the inside the tendons. When sometimes tendons, not all tendons are made like this, but it appears that this is this style. You see that? That's pretty hard to miss. When you see it in a microscope, it's just exactly no difference whatsoever, identical. And there'll be blood in there too. There's going to be blood and all that stuff. And normally there would be a stalk coming out of there, coming down to attach to something, but that's burnt off or ripped off or broken off or however. But it's not there anymore. You see what I'm talking about? These are the spots. Boom, boom. And I believe, well, I'm certain that's a meteorite, and I'm certain that's a meteorite. If anybody wants to dispute it, dispute it. Let's talk. And I'm certain this is a meteorite too, a little iron one, and a magnet sticks to it. And this one here is a bony, stony meteorite. It's got stony-looking stuff on the outside, which is bone, and that's where the marrow boiled off and turned into iron. And this one just turns into iron because lungs are just virtually nothing but blood. And when I say iron, it's not 100% iron. It's all kinds of metals. And when they slice them, they can see all the different metals in the crystals, and then they can actually see the blood inside. It's not hard to find. Okay, my friends, I am going to show you this in the microscope here. Let me turn the lights up a little bit. This is that iron lung. It's very small. and you can see my fingertip is this side. But these are all the alveoli, and there is still red blood in those. You see all those little tiny holes? Those are the alveoli, and they burnt off through the pleura, which is this. All right, and you can see the little white flakes there. Let me turn the light down a little bit. You see the white flakes? All right, those are supposed to be everywhere, and that's just supposed to be like a really heavy-duty fabric bag. And I have one that's being DNA tested that still has all the good pleura. Now, this came through space. Now, this also has the spur lock on it as well, and there it is right there. You see that piece, that brown-looking piece? That right there, all the way right back up to there, is the spur lock. That's that latch that would latch this lung into another creature's body, or into another part of the creature's body, because this is a lung. Now, I am going to put this out for general consumption and see what, because I'm not paying for any more tests. Nobody cared about anything I did. But this could be tested. Now, you'd have to find a lab, and somebody'd have to pay for it, because it ain't going to be me. Now, I did have 3 DNA tests done, and I have the specimens still here, and they can be tested, but nobody paid any attention. So, at minimum, you'd have to have 2 different labs probably test them. But blood can come out here, and almost all meteorites have blood in them. I've shown it on mine. They're just saturated with blood if you know what to look for. It's like this little one right here. You see that? That's all blood. You see that? That's all blood. And this was the bone. You see the curve of the bone right here? And that bone exploded because the marrow was wet, coming through space, and the wet makes it expand, just like a jar of water. You put it and boil it, and it's going to explode. And that's what happened. That bone just exploded, and this is all that's left that is still bone, and that turned into iron, and that'll hold magnets, and the rest is just all bone. All right, I'm going to wrap it up with just these last final words. This is just a giant lung that smelted coming through space, caused space to smell like steak, and it's exactly the same as this. If it had come through space, this would have turned into iron if it was still loaded with blood, and that was, because the blood is where all the metals are. That's all the metals. It's smoked off, coming through space. That's what happens. And this is just very unusual that this didn't explode. All right, so, but there is blood in still, you could find it in here, because that little spot right there, has a little red dot in there, which, you see it? That's where the blood passed through that lung. They all have those. You got to get blood everywhere through your lungs. You see this one? See the hole in the bottom and out? When they have holes in all of them. And the air comes through and goes everywhere. And that's what happened there. And I know everything burnt off, all of the cheap molecules that don't have real strength to them. The metals just all congealed. That's because lungs, hearts, and livers are going to be very, very dense in blood. So those are the things you're going to find primarily are going to give you the best indication. Now, I just want to show this. I'm not bragging, but I'm not insane. All right? I had a GT score in the Army of 139. All right? And this was back there, I got out on the 11th of February 70. A very bad time to be in any military service. But anyway, I had a 139. And this is from Mensa. And they say a composite derived from the Army score the GT score, if you scored 136 or higher before 1980, must accept the results as proof of being in the 98th percentile. I had a 139, so I did a little better than the 136. So I'm not an idiot. I just happen to be aware of things that other people aren't aware of. And they to call me an idiot, but I don't think I'm an idiot. I think I'm showing you the evidence that supports every word I'm saying. So, and the next thing is going to be is my giants that were DNA proven and tested, like this one here, the hand right here. That's the left hand. That's the bumper pad on your hand. That's a little cleave in between right there. This is grip skin that's coming apart. That's the tendon that runs right down. If you lay yours right back, you have the same thing. The thumb goes here. I have fingers that have been DNA tested, CAT scan. I got CAT scans from this. Extremely eroded case. Remember I said blood comes out, I think maybe I showed you there, on that side, but not on this side. These are plugged off. These are not, and the same thing on the end, it's not. This one's plugged off on the end and both sides. That's the way the veins work. And see, there's the vein side, there's the artery side. And this black stain right there is a distal phalanges. You see that black stain? That's a fingertip. And I have all kinds of things. I have knuckles and all kinds of things. I actually have some from the other end. I have a toe from this guy too. And I had CAT scans done, 2D and 3D. Jesse Grant and Associates did a fabulous job. That's one of the tendons. That's another one of the tendons. Fabulous work he did. And the 3D was like this, where you could see inside and see the bone and so forth. You can't get a whole lot of detail because they're heavily transitioned. And then this is the lung. You see how perfect that one is? That's the stuff that you'd see on that little lung that I showed you, which is this one here. If it was coated completely and not, burnt up, first of all, which it burnt up and made everywhere where there was blood in there explode. These are all explosions blowing out. And this black stuff is the same as this, and there's a few of the little white fibers. This is flawless. And then this one here is totally shot. No fiber on it at all, no fabric. And there's that little latch at the bottom. They all have this little spur lock. And this transitions the fluids from one fabric bag to the next. And they all have different chemistry because your lungs are going to be different than your kidneys. Your kidneys are going to be different than your liver. Your liver is going to be different than your gallbladder. But they have to fuse all of these fluids together. That's the fluid-filled highway. And I showed, or I will show, that this one right here, you can literally see the two transfer tubes that come out of here. That's a latch. All right, so I'm not crazy. This stuff is real, and the people that pay attention to it, that's good. If you don't, that's fine. It's up to you. But I don't want to be denied access to the population. Oh, by the way, remember I showed you this? You might not be able to see that well. That's that black stain right there. No, you're not going to be able to see that. Well, maybe. You see the black stain? That's this right here. That's that. See it? That's this. And that's the artery side, blows out on all three spots. And the vein side clamps off on all three spots. All right, but normally the artery side comes down and the vein side comes back. That's that distal phalanges right there. And there's the artery side, I mean the vein side, the tube is still there. The arteries blow right out because there's no restrictions. Alright, you see? A little tube. And this is, obviously extremely eroded. And this right here is where that locks in, you see? That's that piece locking in right there. The flexor pollicis. And this one has the same thing, but this one is full size. But it has also that same investment. You see, this one is perfect. All right, the other one is, I have in all kinds of erosion from this same hand. The same hand that I showed you before, or I will show you. This is going to be a long process of unveiling all this stuff. But this is the hand, and this is one of the fingertips out here. And I have other ones, and I have knuckles and so forth, and a lot of stuff. And if you know what to look for, you can see. This is the padding. You see this padding right around here? And that grip skin, the silver stuff, that's the real thick skin that's on your hand. It falls, well, it doesn't fall right off, but it peels off. And it's made to just, it's not made to be really vital. It's made to be like a glove, and it is, and it peels right off. And that's why it's always wearing off your skin. And as a matter of fact, I have a picture of grip skin here somewhere, right here. You see that? That's grip skin. That's the stuff that was peeling off. It peels off just like that. And this one here was from another gigantic fingertip that I have here. And it still has the fingerprints. These are the sweat pores. You see those little dots? The sweat pores, just like these. And that's one of the ridges of the fingerprint. And the nail was right up here, and I smacked it with a hammer, and it just popped right off, just like that, peeled right off. Just like it did on, just like you can see this. It's just like laying on top here. You see how it's peeling right off here? It's just like glued on there almost. Basically, that's the way it works. And here was the finger, the gigantic finger somewhere. Well, maybe I don't have it here. No, I guess not. But anyway, oh yeah, here it is right here. That's the finger. This is gigantic. You see that? That's the fingernail. All right, let me just show you. This right here, all the way around here, coming down, all the way around, that's the fingernail. And it's in good shape. This right here, this pad, is the little bumper pad that bumps between this bone and the next bone. All right? This is the vein and artery. Remember I showed you the vein and artery in this fingertip? Same thing. All right? You can see that distal phalanges. They call that bone black. The bone hematite shows up. Anyway, but this is so extremely eroded, but that's what it would look like if you could see it inside. It's like a CAT scan in mud. So here's your little pad. I smacked this, that came off, that's where that fingerprint was. Now check this out. Remember this little pad? Watch this. You see the little pads? Right here, this is where we're at. And you can see that little circular spot right there behind the fingertip. Alright, and that's that right there. So this stuff is pretty well certain, and that was DNA tested. That was DNA tested, excellent quality DNA. This was DNA tested, excellent quality DNA. This was DNA tested, not excellent quality, but still, no question, it was human. But this was like raw blood, he said. Basically, it was just blood. And it was. I took it right out of the reddest red spot you can get. See, I drilled into here somewhere. But right down there, it's loaded with blood. It's a lung. That one there was saturated with blood too, and it actually leaked out. And this one didn't even have its coating left on here. That one is just like almost you could transplant the damn thing. It's just perfect. And I have so much of this stuff. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I just never run out. And I still can. I can do this all day long forever, and I will. Because none of this is understood. It's not understood yet. So it's time to have open discussion about this. This is our ancient past, our future possibly, our eternity. It's everything. It's how maybe you're going to even live your life according to some of the things that you might discover based around mud fossils. This is not a joke. This is not just some minor little thing that everybody goes, ooh, isn't that nice, and goes back and does what they're supposed to do, they've been doing all their life. I don't think so. Most people, I think this is going to have a profound effect on. Hopefully good. That's what it's all about. But anyway, I'm just going to keep doing this, and this should show you that we are not alone in the universe, and the things that are out there are just astronomically large. All right, asteroid Bennu is a heart. All right, they brought some samples back from that, and I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. And what it is exactly this. All of these metals will be in there. All of these.